everybody, I'm Corinne Blackstone and welcome to my craft room. Before we get started, be sure that you're signed up for my free newsletter over at CorinneBlackstone.com. You can also check out tons of free SVGs and resources, my blog, and I also have a little shop over there as well with some really fun SVGs and some other cool things. So be sure to check that out. In today's video, we are going to be using Canva to make our very own wedding invitation. Now, while this is kind of geared towards weddings, these types of tutorials, you can use them to make baby shower things, you can use them to make brochures, whatever you want to make, but this is kind of giving you the basics of how to work with Canva, and we are going to actually work with some really cool flake. So this is like a rose gold copper colored metal flake, and we're going to add it to our paper just using some glue, and it is really fun. It's a fun way to dress up any kind of paper project that you're doing, and I'm going to show you how to work with Canva to create something beautiful like this. Now let's go ahead and get started. I will link everything that we're using down below, including how you can get Canva Pro.
Whatever we would do, we do it just for fun.
Canva is an amazing tool, especially if you're getting ready for your wedding. So I wanted to go over how to create some wedding invitations. This is really fun. This is something that you can do without having a CRICUT, without having any of those die cutting machines. But this is something that I think is going to save you some money, and it's really, really easy to do. So what we're going to do first is click Create a Design, and we want to use a the first thing that we're going to do is go to where it says custom size, and I want to do a 5x7 invitation. So what I'm going to do is change where it says PX, which stands for pixels, to inches, and I want it to be 5 inches wide and 7 inches high. I'm going to go ahead and click Create New Design. And what's nice about doing it this way is you're able to either send your design over to somebody to print it for you, or you can print it yourself. It's really up to you and the way you want to do it. Now, because I'm only making one to show you how to do this, I'll be printing mine at home, but I will show you some of the websites that I like to use when I'm going to print things outside of the home. I will say for this that I do highly recommend having Canva Pro, and if you're doing it for your wedding, the cost is really pretty good, especially if you were going to pay someone to design your invitations for you. This is going to save you money in the long run. The first thing that we're going to start with is, of course, the information. So I want to go over into my text, and the reason that I recommend Pro is because you're going to have a lot more options when it comes to text, but you're also going to be able to upload your own text, which is really nice. So if you want to use a certain font, you can do that. Another great thing is with Pro, you get options to all of these pre-made text elements. So if that's something that you're into, that you like the designs here, you can use these as well. And there's so many to choose from. There are literally hundreds. But what we're going to do is we're going to use a text here. So I'm going to add my text box. And it has been a very long time since I have done a wedding invitation. So I'm going to put "You're invited" as our first line. So this is just our first line here. I'm going to play with the fonts after I've kind of written out everything that we're going to be using. That way it's just a little bit easier to kind of visualize everything. So then I want to add another text box, and then this text box will be "to the wedding of." And with Canva, you can expand your text boxes with the little line on the side. We'll resize everything as well. Now, like I said, I haven't done a wedding invitation in a hot minute. So one thing that I will recommend is if you are looking for like information on how it should look or what you want it to say, you can always just kind of Google it and look at other photos of people's wedding invitations, and that will help you really know what your wedding invitation should have on it. You can, of course, add photos. You can add just about anything that you want to. But for me, I want to keep it pretty simple because we're going to do some other things to the edges of it to make it really pop, really stand out. So we're going to have a little bit of fun with this. So perhaps we'll change the wording up a little bit. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to change this because I don't think "you're invited" sounds good for a wedding. So I'm going to say, let's do "together with their," ooh, that's not how you spell that, their families. And that'll be like the first line. And then this one can be Corinne. We're going to have the same last name because I don't use my maiden name at the moment. And then we're going to do Corinne Blackstone. And we'll add another line of text because I'm going to be using different elements to my text. So I just want to make different boxes for the different lines that are going to have different text. That's why I'm doing so many text boxes. And we're going to do, oops, that's not how you spell that. Now you'll notice, see how this one is really thin. All you got to do is just pull that line out and you have a longer text box. You may need to adjust and do things with it as you go. So let me go ahead and put the rest of our text in. And we can go ahead and play with the fonts. Once you have all of your text boxes, it's going to be a lot easier to figure out how you want things set up, how you want the different like page breaks, stuff like that. Like I want to have a wedding celebration on its own line. And then we're going to kind of play with our fonts. So the first fonts I'm going to play with are going to be some script fonts for our names because I want them to look a little bit fancy. Now this is why I highly recommend that you have Canva Pro when doing this, because you'll see that there are a lot of You'll see that there are a lot of fonts, and if they have a crown next to them, you can't use them unless you have Canva Pro. Now, what I would just recommend, grab it for a month or whatever. You can definitely just sign up for it, use it, do all your invitations and stuff, and then move on from there, and you don't have to pay for it anymore. Now, one thing I am going to do is I'm going to make these a little bit bigger just so I can see them. I can always size them again in a minute. But what I want to do is just kind of scroll through. And if I see a font that I really like, I'm just going to go ahead and click on it. Now, I know they are a little hard to see over here. So kind of anytime I see a script font, I just sort of click on it and see if it's one that I want to use. Now, like I said, you can absolutely upload your own fonts if that is something that you so choose to do. If you want to upload your own font, you can just click Upload a Font down here at the bottom. And again, this is for pro users only. And it's going to open up your folder and ask you kind of where your font is that you want to use. So I'm going to go over into my desktop. I'm just going to grab a random font. I'm probably not going to use it for this, but I'm just going to grab a font, choose it, and then that will upload the font. Now it's telling me by uploading my own custom font, I acknowledge that I own the font and have the right to use it. That's why I recommend using places like Design Bundles and Creative Fabrica for fonts, because you do have the rights to use those fonts for anything. You don't have to worry about it, and it's a great way to use fonts that you already own. Now I have no idea which font this is other than I know that it's a script font, but I don't know exactly which one. So whether we use that one or not, we just wanted to upload to show you how to do it. Now, if you look here, you can see all of your fonts that you uploaded. So let's take a look at that one. That's a little bold for what I want to do, but you get the idea of how you can kind of add your own fonts. It's really easy, but I do really recommend Pro just because, again, you can't do that without it. So I'm going to go ahead and scroll through and just find something that looks nice. Actually, whatever that is, looks pretty good. Jonathan. So let's go with that. We're going to also make his name in Jonathan. That way it matches. And then we're going to make his name bigger, obviously, because that's like real small. And we don't want it to be quite that small, but I do want it to be kind of big because that's, you know, who the wedding's for. So we want to make it pretty big. So just to make it big, you can use font sizing, but I just prefer to use the boxes and just kind of pull them out. And then I want the names to be pretty close to the same size, even though I have more letters in my first name. And then we'll sort of space things out kind of as we go. But since we've picked our script font, the next thing I want to do is choose the font that is going to be like the rest of the font. So the information part of our font. Now Canva Sans is fine, but it's a little bit boring. So I'm just going to kind of scroll through again and find a font that I think looks nice with that script font. The font you choose, of course, will kind of be based on the vibe of your wedding, how you want it to look. you know, if you're going for a more low-key, playful wedding, or if you want something much more formal, something to definitely think about. So I think this one looks good, the Sanchez. I think that's pretty decent. So I'm going to go ahead and size these a little bit and just sort of make them a little bit bigger. And then I'm going to change each of our text boxes over to that Sanchez, just so that we can use that for all of our fonts here. So I think that looks pretty good. I'm going to make the and a little bigger. And honestly, I think I'm going to use the ampersand for this instead of that. And I think I'm actually going to probably use my script font for that, but we'll come back to it in a minute. So I'm just going to go ahead and change all of these over to that Sanchez, and then we'll resize everything as we go. Now they do offer a change all option, but I definitely don't want to do that because it will change the font that is this. So I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to select all of those, change them all to Sanchez. And then once I've got that changed, again, I'm going to go ahead and resize some things. And I'm going to just move stuff around a little bit. And I do want this a little bit larger just because I want people to obviously know where they're going. And we want to make the date fairly large as well, because again, that's going to be what most people are looking for. They're not going to be quite looking as much for the joyfully invite you to and all that information, but they're going to more so want to look at the information where it's at when it is all of that. So like I said, I want to use the ampersand, but I think I'm going to change it back to that same script font that I used just to see if it looks a little bit nicer, and make it a bit bigger. And I might see if I can kind of scooch things around a little bit. Our B's are kind of big, so it looks a little bit off. But I think that looks pretty good. Again, a little bit boring, but that's okay. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to kind of grab all the pieces. And I just want to look at it, see how it looks, kind of check what I think about, you know, the lining up of everything. And you can use the position option to center everything together. That way you don't have to eyeball it. The centering under position is so helpful. So now that I'm pretty happy with that, I think I'm going to just scoot it down just a smidge, just a little bit. I think that's pretty good. So this is pretty boring as is. Now is where we get to have fun. We get to add our elements. We get to add some color. Whatever you want to add to this is whatever you want to do. But for this, we're going to add some floral touches. So what I'm going to do, and again, this is why I really recommend Pro, is I'm going to go here to where it says elements, and I'm just going to type in the word floral. There are so many options to choose from. You have kind of graphic florals. You have photographic florals. So I'm going to look at the photographic florals and see if I find anything that really fits my theme. Now what's nice is you can filter these down a bit. So I know that I want something in the blue realm because I'm looking for a blue theme for my flowers. Now this does not always work great with every single element that you're looking for. You can see that it's filtering a lot for the color of the sky and the background for this. So that may just not work quite right for what we want to look for. So let me look for floral again. And we're just going to look through and see what we find and find something that's going to work for our invitation. Now, keep in mind, you are going to want to put some time in and take your time to find what you're looking for. And if you don't find anything in photos, your other option is go to graphics, and you may find something a little bit better over here as well. Again, you can filter it and try using a color and see if that helps, but it doesn't always. It just sort of depends on kind of what you're looking for and the design style you want. So I would just play with the filters. If it doesn't work, that's fine. Just take the filter off and scroll. If you find something you like, what I like to do is I'm just going to click on it and I'm just going to keep scrolling and look for a few other options. I can always delete the item if I find that it's just not the vibe that I'm going for. It's really easy to delete elements that you just decide you don't like or doesn't go with what you're looking to use. Now, let's say I like the style of these flowers, and what's cool is this does magic recommendations. So it's going to recommend me things that look just like that flower, but in a different style. So I can click See All and see if there's anything else that might be more so what I'm looking for. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and click on I'm just going to try to pull some things around. It is really hard to see this because of the way the flowers are sitting. And I know already I don't like that one, so I'm going to delete that one out. And it is hard a little bit to grab the flowers, so just take your time because you just need to make sure you're not grabbing your text. You can always bring your text back in and change it up if you want to, but it's up to you. So this is the one that I think I like best. I don't think I like this one as much, so I'm going to delete that. These are going to be my corner options. Now you see I just grabbed my font and I didn't want to do that. I'm going to click undo and I'm going to grab the image. Now I don't want these to take over the whole page because I don't want them to take over too much. So I just want the edge of them showing. And I may need to adjust my font. I may need to adjust a few things as I build my design. That's okay to adjust. It's not a big deal. You may want to change the style of your font. You may want something bolder. You're going to change this up as you go, so don't worry. Now I want it in two corners. I want it in this lower corner and I want it in this upper corner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to click duplicate. That will give me the second one. Now what I want to do is I'm going to flip it and I'm going to flip it vertically and then horizontally. I know it seems like you flipped it a bunch, but you flip it a bunch so that you can get it to kind of match with what it's going to look like. Now this one is over my words, which we obviously don't want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get this so that it looks pretty similar to the one in the bottom. So I'm just kind of looking at to where like the leaves are sitting. I'm just trying to get it fairly similar. That looks pretty good. Now I want to right click on this and I want to go to where it says layer and I just want to send it to the back. That's going to put it behind my words. Now, you can either change your font to make it more bold, or one thing I like to do is I'm going to change the transparency of my image. So you can click on these little grids line, this like little checkerboard, and you can just kind of turn that transparency down a little bit. And that's going to help your words stand out. And you just want to make them both even so that they look nice. So they're both on 70. And you can see how much that really changes up your design. Now, of course, you can always kind of grab everything. And I always just say you can totally change it up as you're going. I'm going to grab all my pieces. I'm just holding shift on my keyboard and I'm just grabbing everything. And then I just want to make it just maybe a little bit smaller. Maybe move it over a little bit. Because I don't want like the text of the information to get hidden at all, but I do think that this looks pretty good. Now, we're going to add a little something on our own to the corners here, to like these blank corners. So don't worry if you don't like them being empty. I'm going to show you a cool thing that you can do with them. Now, once you're happy with it, just double check all of your spelling, all of your addresses, all of your information, because you want to make sure that you're giving the correct information on your card. Now, you have a couple of ways that you can, again, save this, print this, do all the things. So I'm going to show you your options. Number one, what you can do, and I always recommend, go ahead and click share, and you want to download this. I recommend downloading it as a PNG first, and just download it and save it. That way, if anything happens, you still have your original file. So I'm going to go ahead and make a wedding folder on my desktop. That way I can keep everything in line. I don't have to look for it. So this is going to be my wedding folder. Select that, and I'm going to call this my invitation, and I'm going to click on save. That way you always have a backup. Never ever don't have a backup, because if something goes wrong, you're saved. But now from here, you can do a couple of things. You can click on share. And if you click print your design, you have some different options here on how to like print it. There's a bunch of different things. There's like double-sided posters and all that. We don't want that. What I want to do is I'm going to look for invitation, and we're going to look at invitation portrait. Now it will say resize design. Let's see what happens if we click that. And for whatever reason, it always wants to resize. It's fine. It's no big deal. Now you can add a back page to this if you want to, but I don't want to do that. Don't need to, but you can do this directly from Canva. So if you want to. Now you can choose your different paper types. You've got like premium paper, deluxe, hemp paper. Premium paper from them is actually pretty nice. You can choose your finish, matte, gloss, and uncoated. I recommend matte finish for your invitations. And then you can choose however many you need. So keep in mind, a lot of people, it's funny, I see it a lot. People are like, oh, I'm inviting 200 people to my wedding. I need 200 invitations. That's not actually true because you're not sending an individual invitation for each member of the invites. So you may have Mr. and Mrs. Smith who are going to get one invite. You may have the entire Johnson family who are going to get one invite, and that's 4 people. So figure out how many couples, how many invitations you need. So let's say we need 100 invitations. It's going to be $64 plus $15 shipping. Now you can do an in-store pickup if you have a store near you. I'm not going to select that because I don't want you guys to know where I live. But if you click continue, you're going to be able to check out. It's going to tell you if you have any issues, anything like that, and you can download a PDF. Now, I personally, I've done their print service before. It's fine. But there are a couple other websites that I think are great options. Now, I know what you're thinking. Really? Walgreens? Yes. Really, Walgreens. They do a really great job with printing. They do a lot of photo, but they can also print out invitations for you. So you can definitely use them to do lots and lots of really, really great things. And they're pretty inexpensive. You can pick them up locally, which I think is fantastic. And you can do free same-day pickup with most of their stores, which I think is fantastic. It's really easy. So what you're going to do is go to Cards and Stationery, and you can see here that they have lots and lots of options. There's premium, there's invitations and announcements, so many things. So you can definitely find what you need for what you're looking for. So I'm going to click on wedding and just show you kind of their website. It's really easy. I'm not going to walk you through the whole process because honestly, if you can use a computer, you can use Walgreens Photo. You can use one of their pre-made cards, but you can absolutely just upload your own card. Very easy to do, very simple, and pretty darn inexpensive. And like I said, you can pick them up same day for most of the products that they offer, especially if you're really close to a Walgreens store. I would also look into places like Staples or Office Max if you have those. Those tend to be a little bit more expensive, but if you don't have the option of a Walgreens and you want to do same day, you don't want to do like a Vistaprint where they ship it to you, would highly recommend checking those out. Now I'm going to print our wedding invitation here at home because I'm only getting one. There's no point in me ordering a whole bunch. Then I'm going to show you how we're going to add a little pizzazz to them. So I printed my invitation just at home because obviously I'm not really going to send it to anybody. But let's talk about how I'm not perfect and neither is my equipment. My printer decided it was going to take a nice little bite out of the corner of my design. So it's fine. No big deal. I just reprinted it, but I would definitely recommend sending these to a professional printer if you're going to have them, ready to send. So I'm going to go ahead and use my paper cutter and cut this out. And we're going to just try to get this as even as we can. I am not the best at making this perfect, which is another reason that I would just highly recommend just getting these printed somewhere, because you're going to just get a much better quality than you would if you printed it at home. But I'm going to do my best and try to get this as straight and as even as I can. It's probably not going to be amazing, but we're going to go for it. Once we get this kind of all cut out, I will show you our next step because we're going to do a really neat treatment on this just to kind of add something fun. For this next step, I'm going to use part of the paper that I trimmed off. I'm also going to need a glue stick and some flake. So this is kind of a rose gold coppery color, but you can use any color metal flake that you want. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my glue stick, and I'm using the Craft Bond from Elmer's, but you can really just use like a regular old elementary school one. And I'm just going to take, and I'm going to just go to this corner, and I'm just going to lay down a little bit of glue, and it doesn't matter how perfect it is because the flake is going to cover up a lot of that. Then what I want you to do is take your flake. I'm just going to take it out of the jar. This is super full, so I always try to open it right over what I'm doing. I haven't used it yet. This one I haven't. I have a blue that I've used. It's really pretty. But I'm just going to pull the top off, and I'm going to take a couple little bits of the flake off of this, and you just want to drop them down onto your glue and use your finger to press it down. Now you're going to do that with all these little flakes. You can go in with tweezers, your finger, however you want to do it, but you just kind of break off a little piece, lay it down, And you're gonna just do that all over this corner. Now I like to do one corner at a time. You can do both corners if you want to, but I'm just a one corner at a time kind of gal. So I'm gonna go ahead and press the gold flake all the way over this. And you just wanna kind of make sure that you cover where your glue is. And you just kind of give it a little brush with your finger. And then I think I've still got a little bit more glue to cover up here. And you'll notice how it kind of flakes off onto your finger as you're doing it. You can use a little brush to help, and you can kind of brush it on. I'm just using a really soft old makeup brush that I have that I didn't use for makeup. And then you can kind of go through, and you just want to take any pieces that aren't part of the design, so anything that's not like actually stuck on, and you just want to rub it off with your finger. And you just sort of keep kind of brushing at it a little bit, and it'll all eventually kind of, whatever isn't stuck to glue comes off. And look at that, adds a little shine. So I want to do the same thing to the top corner. So I'm going to go up to the top corner, and I'm going to put some glue. And I'm just going to kind of dabble it on. It doesn't, again, does not have to be perfect. And then I'm going to take the extra piece over here and switch them out, because I can use the gold flake that was left over and just sort of dump it on there. And again, using my finger, just kind of press it on. Take any pieces that are left over. I want to brush any pieces onto this glue. You just sort of go for it. There's no right or wrong way to really lay the gold flake down. You just sort of do what you want. I do recommend though, once you've been kind of going for a little bit, you're gonna end up with like sticky on your hands. So either make sure that you have something to wipe your fingers on, or just grab some tweezers and you can just pull out the flake with the tweezers, and then you're not touching all of it with it being like wet on your hands or sticky on your hands. And then you can kind of just lay it down with your tweezers and your finger. And then you just sort of brush it on and kind of brush off anything that's left. And again, I just go in with my makeup brush just to kind of get any little bits and pieces that might be kind of left behind. And then I go along the edge here. And what's cool is these flakes come in tons of different colors. I will link these down below, but look at how much that just changed that whole vibe. So cute, so pretty. If you want to add more, you absolutely can. Just grab your glue stick and you can just put a little more glue down. You can absolutely add more if you want. Now I will say it is going to stick to your glue stick, so just be aware of that. That's just kind of the nature of working with the gold flake, is it kind of does stick, especially to the glue stick. But you can just kind of come back in if you want to add a little more to the corner. Just grab your tweezers, grab a little piece. Now this is kind of more of like a big sheet of the gold stuff, so you're going to want to kind of keep that in mind when you're shopping. Just look at kind of the reviews and stuff, but I like the big sheets. I think they work really well. And then you see I just kind of use my finger and hold it down, and then I just press it and then pull it off. And then again, I just brush. And there, we've added a little bit more. So it's really just up to you and how you want them to look. But I think this is a really great way that you can add some additional bling and prettiness to your invites without adding a huge cost or a ton of time, because this is a really easy thing to do. And then you can just kind of take your brush, your little makeup brush, and you can just brush some of that flake right back onto the paper and then put it right back into your tub. But this stuff goes a long way. Well, if you don't knock it all off. But this stuff really does go a super long way. I didn't even hardly like touch what's in here. And then I've had one that I've used for a bunch of stuff, and honestly, it's still got a lot in it. So I think you really could go crazy with this gold flake, and you would really be able to do so many invitations. You could add this to your RSVP cards, whatever you wanted to do to kind of tie it all together. But look at how gorgeous that is. Now, please ignore the print quality because that was from it getting jammed. But I really think these are so beautiful, so fun, so easy to do. This can be done so much cheaper than having somebody else make like a custom invitation for you. And I showed you a bunch of different options for where you can get this printed. If you have any questions about this, the metal flakes, anything that we do here on the channel, by all means, let me know in those comments down below. And keep in mind, you don't have to just do wedding invitations like this. This could be really fun for a quinceañera, for a anniversary party, an engagement party, a baby shower. There are a lot of ways you could use this, or just create your own cards and make them a little extra special by adding some of that gold flake. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and as always, happy crafting!